Welcome back, fellow Humalistas. How was your midterm examination? Were you able to apply the learnings you acquired? And are you now again ready to learn things about politics? Because this week, we prepare ourselves as we indulge our journey of learning toward the concept of constitution. And so, let us now begin our expedition. And to start, these are the following learning outcomes that we must have to achieve or attain at the end of our lesson. Okay? That we should be able to describe the concept of constitution, identify the purposes of the constitution, and determine what kind of constitution is the Philippine Constitution. Now, what do you know about the 1987 Philippine Constitution? Actually, within the backdrop of societal development and the emergence and growth of civilizations throughout the world, one very important characteristic of progress is the existence of what we call legal systems, and also the preponderance of laws in which the Constitution, as the fundamental law of the land, serves as an important instrument of the nation state. This means that the existence of a constitution will fully allow growth and development of the state and all the people residing within the state. So let us now formally open our discussion by looking into the concept of constitution. So how do we define constitution? According to Cooley, a constitution refers to the body of rules and principles with which the powers of sovereignty are regularly exercised. Meaning to say, as body of rules or precedents that governs the affairs of the state, the constitution or the existence of a constitution plays a vital role in the political life of the people. Okay? And the word constitution is derived from the Latin word constituo, which means fix, establish, and settle. Yan. Now, political scientists also define constitution in several ways, like the definition made by Cooley. But most political scientists will refer to the Constitution as an embodiment or expression of norms. Okay? And this embodiment or expression of norms regulate the relations of the government to its people. In reference to the Philippine Constitution, as stated in the Book of De Leon, okay, it is the written instrument by which the fundamental powers of the government are established, limited, and defined. And these powers are distributed among the several departments or branches of the government for the safety and useful exercise of these powers for the benefit of the people. For Danug and Kapalilya, the Constitution is the fundamental law of the state, upon which a government is organized and provides the framework for the organization of government. So, if that is the case, then the Constitution is the foundation of the system of government. Meaning, all government decisions and actions must be in line or in reference with the Constitution. And the fundamental law, as the Philippine Constitution is appropriately referred to, plays a very important role in the life of Filipino nation and its political entity. And most of the provisions of our Constitution are based on the Constitution of USA. Now, the definitions cited earlier are similar in two respects. First, they all consider the Constitution as a fundamental or supreme law of the land. This means that as it is the supreme or fundamental law of the state, all institutions of the government as well as the citizens of the state are obligated to abide by the provisions stated in our Constitution. And second, it serves as the foundation of all the actions of the government and the basis of all laws enacted and implemented in our country. In here, the Constitution identifies and regulates the specific powers and functions of the branches of government. And why is there a need to regulate the government's exercise of its sovereign power? There is a need to regulate the government's exercise of its sovereign power to preclude it from becoming despotic, oppressive, and tyrannical. You already experienced that in the past, if you are aware of our history. Okay, that the powers of the government had been abused. Okay, the power of the government had been exercised beyond the limitations being stated in our Constitution. Okay, so there is a need to regulate these powers given to the government. Now, the Constitution is also known as the organic law. Okay? I repeat that. The Constitution sometimes is also known as the organic law, which refers to the foundation that governs the nation's political life. As discussed a while back, the Constitution is the fundamental and supreme law of the land, to which all other laws must conform, and in accordance with which all private rights must be determined, and all public authority must be administered. Having said that, a law, a statute, or a contract, therefore, that violates any provision of the Constitution is deemed null and void, without force and effect of a law. So we can see here the supremacy of the Constitution over all other laws that are being established or that have been established, okay, by the state and within the state. And for your information, the Constitution vests to the judiciary the power to declare a law as unconstitutional. Either the law is a domestic law or international law, if it will really in conflict with the Constitution, then the judiciary has the power to declare that law as unconstitutional. You can see that under Article 8, Section 1 of the 1987 Constitution. And so, if the Constitution is supreme over other laws of the land, what then are the purposes of the Constitution? First, the Constitution defines the organization of the government. As you can see, okay, that there is a hierarchical organization of the government. Yan. And to determine also the distribution of governmental powers and to establish principles governing the operation of the government. In here, you can actually learn that the distribution of governmental powers are being equally distributed to the three branches of the government. Okay? And these powers given to these three branches of government are being checked and balanced through the principles of separation of powers and the principles of checks and balances. Don't worry, we are again indulge ourselves later with these principles, okay, related to the use of powers by the government. Another purpose of the existence of a constitution is to define the rights of individual citizens. And this is manifested in the 1987 Constitution under Article 3, Bill of Rights. Okay? And last but not the least is to hold the state together. So if you're going to observe that there is really an importance of the existence of a constitution. And the existence of this constitution will really allow the state to grow, progress, and develop. And also to make the people live in a society wherein there is order, there is peace, and there is a harmonious relationship with one another. Let us discuss about the concept of law. Actually, it is very difficult, if not possible, to give a precise definition of law. Many political science analysts or political scientists and even legal experts are in the belief that it is indeed hard to define law. And we can only know what it is all about by examining what it does and what it stands for. And so, the term law, in the broadest sense, means a set of rules, norms, and standard of pattern of behavior to which every individual of the society has to conform to. So dito po papasok yung sinasabi natin, why do we need to conform? Because there are set of rules that we need to follow. And if we are not going to follow these rules, the society may be in chaos. That is our definition of law in its broadest sense. Now, from the context of political science, law is the set of rules, principles, standards, and processes enacted by the state and govern the relationship and regulate the conduct of men in an organized society. So it is imbued with the task of resolving the conflicting interests of men and the institutions. So law then becomes an instrument of control both in the private and public life, both in the private and public affairs. You must also have to understand that law in itself has a special function that it seeks to perform. And much of its success is also determined by the primary agent entrusted with its imposition and execution. I'm referring to the government. Okay? And the type of ideology and government, or even the structure that a certain country adopts and adheres to, may have serious implications as to how laws are to be carried out. For example, in a totalitarian or dictatorial state, where strongman rule tribes, okay, in here, laws are utilized to sow fear and discomfort to the people while prompting their power by brutal force or the use of iron hand. Okay? and inhuman compulsions at the expense of the governed. On the other hand, in a democratic setting, laws are used to provide sanctions and, more importantly, defends and protects rights from infringement. And with this, therefore, it is hard and even unimaginable and terrifying to think of a society without laws and legal systems. Consider, for example, that even in the existence of laws, sometimes disorder still exists. Diba? How much more in a kind of government wherein the rule of one tribes, okay? The rule of a strongman tribe, like in a totalitarian or dictatorial government. Okay? And what do you think will happen if all these laws will be scrapped together? In the book of Aison and Reyes, a good written constitution must possess the following attributes or characteristics. And these are broadness, brevity, and definiteness. Talking about broadness, inasmuch as the Constitution has to outline the organization of the government, it also has to be comprehensive to embody all the essential functions and powers of the government. So in broadness, it refers on how the Constitution is comprehensive to include all the essential functions and powers of the government. Okay? Talking about brevity, the Constitution has to be brief but concise, meaning it should not be too lengthy or too detailed, as only the essentials of government should be embodied in it. Because appropriate statutes can be created later on that will provide the details. Okay, so that brevity is not violated as requisite of a good written constitution. And talking about definiteness, the provisions of the Supreme Charter of the land should be definite and clear to avoid errors and ambiguity in their interpretation. So, if these three characteristics or attributes are present in a written constitution, then that written constitution is considered to be a good written constitution. Aside from having attributes, a written constitution has also three essential parts. This is according to Danog and Campanilla. Okay? And what are these three essential parts of the Constitution? We have Constitution of Government. And what do we mean by this? Constitution of Government refers or provides the framework for the establishment of government by defining the powers and assigning this to the three branches of the government. Yan. Second one is Constitution of Liberty. This part of the Constitution specifies the basic rights and freedom of the people. And these liberties serve as the people's protection against the abuses of the government. And the third part is Constitution of Sovereignty. This portion of the Constitution stipulates the manner by which the people can exercise their sovereign power to approve, alter, and modify the fundamental law of the land. So remember that there are three essential parts of the Constitution. Okay? Let us also discuss the key features of Constitution. The following that I'm going to discuss are the features of democratic constitutions that have been identified by political scientists to exist in one form or another in virtually all national constitutions. And the first key feature is a constitution is codified or written. And what does that mean? A codified constitution is one that is contained in a single document, like the 1987 Constitution, which is the single source of constitutional law. So, codified constitutions are often the product of some dramatic political change, such as revolution. Actually, the 1987 Constitution is a product of revolution. Okay? Experience kasi ng mga tao during that time that they are being oppressed, abused, and their rights are being trampled by the government, stepped upon by the government. So there was a dramatic political change that led to the creation or establishment of a codified constitution. And actually, most states in the world have codified constitutions. Now, states that have codified constitutions normally give the constitution supremacy over ordinary statute law. Okay? And if there is any conflict between a legal statute and the codified constitution, all or part of the statute can be declared ultra vires or beyond the powers. Okay? Declared ultra vires by a court and struck down as unconstitutional. And now, in amending a codified constitution, there are exceptional procedures to follow that make amending a constitution more difficult than passing a simple law. So meaning to say, in a codified constitution, changing it is very rigid, very hard, because there are exceptional procedures that must be followed, okay, to amend a codified constitution. And our country is one of the many states that have a codified constitution. And the procedures in amending a codified constitution may include a convocation of a special constituent assembly or the creation of constitutional convention, and also the consent of regional legislatures or the existence of a referendum process and other procedures. So napakahirap palang i-amend or baguhin ang isang codified constitution like our constitution, because it will really go through a process that is rigid and hard. It will really follow a process that will take the changing of the constitution a very long procedure. Another key feature of constitution is uncodified or unwritten. An uncodified constitution is one that is not contained in a single document, consisting then of several different sources which may be written or unwritten. So, to call an uncodified constitution as unwritten is a misnomer because actually the parts are written, however, they are not written in one single document. But since the term unwritten has been accustomed to use, it is being accepted already. Okay? Now, as of 2010, at least 3 states have uncodified constitution. And do you know these 3 states? We have the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Israel. And talking about the uncodified or unwritten constitution of UK, okay, UK has an unwritten constitution. And instead, Britain's laws, policies, and codes are actually developed through political evolution. Not only through political evolution, but also developed through statutes, common law, convention, and most recently, the European Union law. Yan. So the British Constitution then has no single document, but clearly sets out how political power is allocated and where it is legally located. Yan. Now, an unwritten constitution based on conventions has the advantage of being extremely adaptable or flexible. Mas madaling baguhin ang ganitong klaseng constitution compared sa codified. Okay, because uncodified constitution or unwritten constitution is flexible and adaptable to change. All that are necessary for the practices to be changed, okay, is for the parliament to agree that change is necessary. Okay, mabilis lang ang usapan, kumbaga, if there is a need to change the Constitution, if there is a need to amend or revise the Constitution, okay, in a state wherein they follow uncodified or unwritten constitution, or in a state wherein their constitution is uncodified or unwritten. So what are the kinds of constitution? Actually, in knowing the key features of a constitution, we can come up with the kinds of constitution. First, as to their origin or history. And there are two kinds of constitution as to the origin or history. We have conventional and cumulative. Conventional can also be called enacted. Cumulative can also be called as evolved. In a conventional or enacted constitution, it is one that is either enacted by a constituent assembly or granted by a monarch. On the other hand, a cumulative or evolved constitution is one which is a product of growth through a long period of development, and the embodiment of rules in a cumulative or evolved constitution was derived from customs, traditions, and judicial decisions. Second is as to their form. And we have written and unwritten. Okay, or codified and uncodified. Now, a codified constitution is being established or created by a special body such as constitutional convention, constitutional assembly, or constitutional commissions that will put into writing at a definite period of time the Constitution. Okay? Actually, the 1935, 1973, and the 1987 Philippine Constitution are written constitutions. In an unwritten constitution or uncodified constitution, it is uncodified in the sense that they are not written in a single document, but in several documents, separately written by different bodies or agencies at different periods of time in the history of a state. Okay? And these are considered to be cumulative or evolved constitutions. And the third is as to the manner of amending them. We also have rigid or inelastic constitution and flexible or elastic constitution. In a rigid or inelastic constitution, it is one that regarded as a document of special sanctity which cannot be amended or altered except by some special machinery. Okay? And in a flexible constitution, it is one that possesses no higher legal authority to amend or alter the Constitution. Meaning, it can be easily amended by introducing it just like in the form of an ordinary legislation by the Congress or the Parliament. In the case of the Philippine Constitution, ours is rigid or inelastic as to the manner of amending our Constitution. If the Philippine Constitution then cannot be easily changed, amended, or revised, and there must be a special machinery to change our Constitution, how can we change then the Constitution? Actually, there are modes of effecting constitutional amendment and revision. And let us first differentiate the terms revision and amendment. Okay? For your information, revision and amendment are poles apart. Meaning to say they are distinct. They are different as method of changing the Constitution. Because revision involves rewriting of the whole Constitution, while amendment envisions changes only of specific provisions of the Constitution. Okay? And one way to amend or revise the Constitution is through the Constituent Assembly. Okay? The Congress, the Constitutional Convention, and People's Initiative are the special bodies empowered to amend the Constitution. Okay? So these are the ways to amend the Constitution. When we talk about Constituent Assembly, the Congress proposes amendment or revision of the Constitution by a vote of 3/4 of all its members. It sits as one Constituent Assembly rather than as a legislative body. Meaning to say, our Senate and our House of Representatives will sit as one by a vote of 3/4 of all its members, either to amend or revise the Constitution. In a constitutional convention, there must be a vote of 2/3 of all the members of the Congress so that they may call a body called Constitutional Convention, which will propose amendments to or revision of the Constitution. Okay? And third is what we call the People's Initiative. Amendments of the Constitution here may be introduced directly by the people through initiative. And the people must submit a petition for amendments to the Constitution. And the petition must be signed by at least 12% of the total number of registered voters. And every legislative district must be represented by at least 3%. Okay? May I repeat it? In a people's initiative, the people may introduce directly amendments of the Constitution. But the people must submit a petition for amendments to the Constitution by signing at least, by a petition signed at least by 12% of the total number of registered voters. And every legislative district must be represented by at least 3%. Okay? Now, a people's initiative to the amendment of the Constitution shall take place only after 5 years following the ratification of the new Constitution. And the amendment must take place only once in every 5 years. Now let us talk about the 1987 Constitution. The 1987 Constitution can be regarded as a reaction to the tyrannical years of President Marcos's dictatorial rule. Okay? In 1986, following the People Power Revolution, which ousted President Marcos as president, and following on her own inauguration, Corazon Aquino issued a proclamation declaring a national policy to implement the reforms mandated by the people, okay, protecting their basic rights, and adopting a provisional constitution that will provide for an orderly transition to a government under a new constitution. And President Aquino later issued Proclamation number 9, creating a constitutional commission, okay, popularly known as CONCOM, to frame a new constitution. And for your information, the members of the commission were drawn from the varied backgrounds and reflective also of the desire of President Corazon Aquino that all fronts of society from all sectors of the country be equally represented. And the compositions of this CONCOM include several former congressmen, okay, a former Supreme Court Chief Justice in the name of Roberto Concepcion, a Catholic bishop in the name of Teodoro Bacani, and also a film director in the name of Lino Broca. So we can see here that the members really of the commission were drawn out or drawn from varied backgrounds of the society. They came from the different sectors of the society that are equally representing the people. And after the commission had convened, it elected its president in the name of Cecilia Muñoz Palma, who had emerged as a leading figure in the anti-Marcos opposition, following her retirement as the first female Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. And this is Cecilia Muñoz Palma, okay, handing over the draft of the 1987 Constitution to President Corazon Aquino. Okay? And the 1987 Constitution provides that the Philippines is a democratic and republican state where sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. And you can see this provision under Article 2, Section 1 of the 1987 Constitution. The writing of our Constitution was indeed a transition of the government into becoming a democratic republican type. So, protect it, fight for it, and give value to it, because sovereignty resides in us, the people. Okay? And with this, I hope you become more aware of the concept of the Constitution. So enjoy your weekend. See you next week. And thank you for watching.